Hey, long time no see. This is Miss Jackson here on YouTube, IRL therapist with a background in grief and complicated grief. Dropping by real quick because I saw Jonah Hill's cinematic love letter for the mental health tools that improved his life, featuring his trusted mental health provider, psychiatrist Phil Stutz. I watched this about 10 days before the 2-year mark of my grief journey, so it hit pretty hard. Now, in the mental health community, the film may be a bit controversial because therapists and clients can work together but not be friends. This film takes the legal and ethical components of a mental health service and trashes it. And for the sake of the film and the film alone, I loved it. Now, this is a grief-based channel, so yes, the only reason I was floored while watching it was because the grief wound runs deep from the multi-perspective of a mental health provider, client, and now the viewer. As a fairly new therapist entering my 5th year of experience, if you asked me how many times I've told my clients that I love them, the answer is once. I didn't anticipate for it to happen so soon in my career, and I said it to the complicated grief group I worked with between August 2020 and September 2021. We had come down to our last conversation, and I had openly shared with them what had happened between my employer and me. I defied the powers that be by speaking candidly with group about what happened, and I left a video on the channel should you care about that drama. Regardless, I would have never just abandoned the group like that because in California, it's unethical and illegal for therapists to ghost clients. For even in our death, we are tasked to think ahead of time and create and leave a plan of continuity of care for clients. More importantly, though, I enjoyed working with this group. They really are why I fell in love with working with those who grieve. Working with them brought me a sense of purpose in my own grief journey, and that group was so self-aware, so intentional, and so focused on their grief journey and healing that looking back, it was truly a privilege and an honor to become a grief walker for them. When I made the outline for this video, I was 10 days away from completing my 2nd year without my loved one here. And on 12/18/2022, I broke down intensely. The emotion progressed from a soundless body tension that momentarily left me paralyzed on the hardwood floor of my apartment to a sorrowful wailing that my ears couldn't believe was coming from my mouth. In short, I cried harder that weekend than I did on the day that Missy dearly departed. I was so respectful of my loved one and that her hard work was over that I just prioritized her well-being over my emotion when she passed on December 28th, 2020. The key, of course, in healing is integration and emotional wellness. So I cried that weekend for a bit, and when I got done, my heart was so full of gratitude that Missy and me ever even met. My only thought then was, I know for a fact that without her, I wouldn't equal to half the self-worth I have now. She wasn't just my dog. She was the guide who showed me how to live. Going back to Jonah Hill's film about his psychiatrist and the tools that he picked up along the journey to cope and better manage his mental health, I was transfixed by the documentary when it elaborated that both gentlemen had suffered a loss. And in their narratives, it became apparent that they each struggled only because they had great love for family. It was so shocking to see both of the gentlemen put so much of their vulnerability on film. Therapists have ethical and legal boundaries to flex while working with clients. Foul language and giving advice in particular has unethical written all over it. But if it doesn't bother client Jonah Hill, it definitely doesn't bother me. I mean, Jonah Hill is about as Hollywood elite as you can get. But what does it matter if in the end, he turned out to be just someone who exploited a community resource, picked up a few tools along the way, and is now advocating that others follow in the same footsteps? He documented the person who most positively influenced him in times of transition and trouble. Jonah Hill is the first client I've ever seen who saw his mental health provider as a person. And again, as a fairly new therapist, this one still shocks me. I would have expected a film more about how Jonah Hill's journey looked like after mastering the tools he learned in his psychiatry sessions with Dr. Stutz. But I keep thinking that the reason these two cracked open in front of each other was because they each knew what going through hell and back, specifically with grief, is like. And so they were able to explore a specialized and specific conversation as if they were old friends. So as a final question, have you seen Stutz? What do you think of it? What did it do for you, if anything? Feel free to sound off in the comments. As for me, I did not go alone on the anniversary of my dear one's passing. On 12/28, I was nursing my baby sister. That's right, at 35 years old, I became a bigger sister.
Look how she plays. Find your chew toy. There you go. There you go. Good girl. You're making progress. Look at the ferocious little puppy tearing apart her chew toy. Good girl, Belle.
Even though it ended up only being 3 days that I was with the puppy, I saw a lot and so much. For example, her life is just beginning, and I was only able to really appreciate that because I withstood the process of my girl's life ending. The original owner of the puppy is my mother, so they were able to happily reunite just in time to ring in the
Happy New Year!
All right, now that the year has started, I've been up to new things, still some of the same things, and of course, releasing things that don't serve me or anybody else. I was recently asked how I work on letting go, and that in and of itself was quite the conversation. Mind you, this was as client and mental health professional, but I see I'm running out of tape here, so I'm gonna probably shut up now.